Hello everyone, my name's Rizival, and today I'm here to talk about, I think, the greatest, like, one of the greatest things I've ever watched or consumed as, like, media ever. For those who probably have seen from the thumbnail or can hear from the background music if it's still there, I'm trying, I've watched Gurren Lagann. I think that's how you pronounce it. That's how they pronounce it in the show. Um, it's a beautiful experience. I'm going to talk a lot about what happens. So if you don't want spoilers, I recommend you to go watch it. It's only about or 27 episodes, including like an art direction episode. It's on Netflix. I think it's on a couple other platforms. Um, there's a couple movies, but I want to get them, but I don't know where. And to buy the physical ones, it's like either sold out or like $100 on Amazon, which is kind of crazy. But you know, I'll find it somewhere and I'll watch it. But again, spoilers ahead. So if you haven't watched Gurren Lagann, go watch it now, right now, please. So now that hopefully, and if you don't care about spoilers, you can go ahead. But I did have spoilers from like I've seen edits, I've seen people talking about it, I was pretty invested because everyone's just like the quotes that they pulled in the edits always were like lifting me up. I was like, wow, this is just awesome. And I've been kind of in a little bit of a mental, like, bad mental state as of recently. Just life things, yay. Um, so I'm trying to fix that, and this is really helping me because I am like energized. I want to do things now. It's like the human spirit is undominable. It's beautiful. But I guess get into it. Um, I think you know I'm really bad with names, so I will try my best. This is probably like my third take. I'm just trying to like mostly just remember names of things. But it starts off with Simone. Well, it starts off with like a forward flashback kind of thing showing you the future, which I don't even know if that's like a thing. Cause okay, my first question is if for people who have watched, so Buta gets a humanoid form for like an episode, but that was teased in like the first episode, but we never see it again after that. So what happened? Why didn't he stay like that? I don't know. It was a little weird. But if someone can explain it to me, then that would be great. Um, it's kind of like it was just kind of weird to me that he went to this like human form and like evolved, then got trapped, and then untrapped, and he turned back to normal. It was just weird. But still the goat peak. You know, but we start with the three main like characters sort of, which is Simone, um, Kamina, and of course Buta the pig mole. And it's just like the immediate like sense you get like the two contrasting characters of Kamina and Simone, and where they come together and they like work together to create like an unstoppable team is beautiful. Of course, if you know what happens, spoilers. Kamina dies in episode 8. There's only 26 episodes, so it's still pretty early on, but you still get a lot of time. and he makes appearances later. Um, you know, we'll get to that. But first thing, stop beeping at me. I know. Sorry. Uh, First thing is that they want to get out of their village because Kamina wants to go to the surface because they all live underground, and the force inside their very DNA wants them to go upwards to the heavens, further beyond, with their spiral power. So, Simon finds Lagann, which is a gunman, which is something that the spiral race used to fight, but again, later. And so, Simon pilots Lagann, and Kamina kind of like coaches him through it, even though he doesn't know how to pilot one of these things either, which I think is funny. And they defeat a bigger gunman that was going to destroy Jihad village, which was their home village. And they also meet Yoko, who's like this lady with a sniper rifle. And so, then they become like an adventuring party. And they go to Yoko's village. And then Kamina steals another gunman, names it Gurren. And then they fight. I had his name. Why am I blanking on his name? I literally had it earlier. Viral. That's right. They fight Viral, and he has a gunman with two faces. I wouldn't, it didn't really look like two faces, but like the main face and then like the head part. And then so Kamina goes, well, we can have two faces too, dumbass. And he grabs Lagann and just, and they somehow combine and become Gurren Lagann, which is peak. It's the name of the show. It's beautiful. And they, end up winning the fight, stealing a helmet, and they look super sick. So then I remember the scientist guy joins them, and then, it's an adventuring party of like Four and Buta. And then they end up meeting, King Kita. I'm blanking on everyone's names. I'm so bad at this. But they meet the guy who pilots King Kitan and his three sisters, and they think that they're evil or whatever. But then it inspires them to eventually steal their own gunmen, and it goes on do kind of this whole cycle until we fight the fourth, one of the four generals of the Spiral King. Where that's the episode where Kamina unfortunately dies, and Simon kind of like gets super depressed after that, because his like best friend or his bro, person who inspired him and took care of him, just died, and now he doesn't have the will to do anything. But that all changes when he goes to the valley and he finds Nia, and she convinces him that not to, because Simon's always comparing himself to Kamina because he thinks he has to be Kamina, but he really needs to be himself. And that's what Kamina was telling him too. He says, believe in the you that believes in, he's like, believe in the Simon that believes in you. But at first, he's believe in the Kamina that believes in you. But you gotta believe in the you that believes in you. And so he learns that, and then and then Nia also kind of helps him with that, and they kind of become a thing, which Yoko and Kamina were also a thing, which kind of becomes I think it's kind of I've seen like parts in the community where people are like, joke around that Yoko's kiss means you die, because the two people that kissed her both die, which is, unfortunate for her. But then, they end up beating the general guy, of course, and they fight the other three generals. And Simon, finally snaps out of it, and he locks in. But they also met another like, they went to another village that has like a population of like only 50, and at the you see that limit, they kick them out. So yeah, Kamina hates that place. This is when he was still alive. He hates that place, and they meet Rosiu, that's his name, who he kind of became like one of my favorite characters, and then like not, and then again, it was really it's a really roller coaster with it, and then also the two twins, I don't remember their names off the top of my head, but they also join them, and and then eventually they pilot a giant ship, and they get more and more people, and becomes Team Gurren, and it's like awesome. And so they defeat the four generals, and they go on to the Spiral King, who is actually another human oppressing the other humans because of reasons, which he reveals later. But they, Simon ends up beating him, and they have a nice 7-year window of peace. But they're always worried because the king was like, "Oh, you have once we reach the 1 millionth human, everyone's gonna die because the moon will kill you or whatever." And so yeah, the moon is gonna crash into them because the anti-spirals want to kill them all, because they're afraid of the power of the spiral, because it could end the entire universe if it goes too far. Which I think that's kind of valid, but not really. So of course they decide. Rosio kind of like, this is where the part where I don't like him as much. He attempts to execute Simon, throws him in jail, and then leaves like half the population on Earth and tries to escape. Almost gets that population killed until Simon and the rest of Team Gurren go and save them. Which then they take control of the moon, which actually turns into a giant ship, and it's like crazy, and it's awesome, and it's cool. But Nia turns kind of evil, but she just kind of gets. She was apparently had anti-spiral DNA embedded in her spiral DNA, so that she became the messenger for the anti-spirals. So now Simon's trying to go and save her, and it's like his whole thing is because that's the woman he loves. He's gotta fight for her, and so him and Team Gurren go, because not only to save their planet, everyone they love, and Nia, who is their close friend, they figure out how to do multi-dimensional like time travel, a whole bunch of like random things, just from sheer willpower, and it's such a great message. And one of the other things I like is that during like the time like after they save the moon, you can see that like, because before the entire planet was like a wasteland on the surface, but like after they save like the moon and stuff, and you can see them returning the animals, you can see that like life has started to grow back in all around the planet, and it's like such a cool little detail that I don't see many people talk about, because there's lots of other things to talk about in Gurren Lagann. But I like the small little detail about that, where it's just like their world is healing, because they're now living up there, in harmony with everything. And so then they go to fight the anti-spirals and save Nia by teleporting through her ring, because that's the only like thing that they can use to find it. But they get trapped in like this weird like dream dimension kind of thing, where all of them are in like universes where I guess it'd be subdued. It was weird because the first one has Simon alive, like with Kamina alive, and they're stealing things, and then the real Kamina appears and tells it, because the other Kamina is like doing stuff that the real Kamina would never do. And he tells Simon to pick one, and Simon picks the real Kamina, and then he breaks free from the illusion, and they have a cool little moment. And then the rest of the team sees Simon's like kind of energy flying through, and they all join him, and they all escape. And the Anti-Spiral, who is, let me just say, the Anti-Spiral has one of the coolest designs. Like the entire show has really cool designs, but like for a villain design, the Anti-Spiral is like one of my favorites because he's constantly changing, and he's like ultra powerful, and like doesn't like he has like a humanoid form because of like how spiral power works, but like still like it's very cool looking. You should look up a picture of him. I like his derpy little face too. That's a little bit part of it. But it's like, so then they go and they fight the Anti-Spiral, and the Anti-Spiral decides to like try and make a mockery of them, because that's where the spiral power is the least, is when you lose to something that you could possibly beat. So it set them at like equal power, but still more power, equal footing. But Team Gurren doesn't care, and then they say, "Who the hell do you think we are?" And then they kind of push past limits via extra energy output from one of the former bad guy, Lord Genome, decaying at the molecular level and turning into pure spiral energy to give them like a super boost, and they become Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann. And it's just, and the reason I want to get the movie version is because I love the scene where they like grow past all of the galaxies and the universe and stuff, and they just become like absurdly large, and it's so cool, and it's just like beautifully animated, and I'm like, I need to see it, but I've only seen it via edits and clips and things. But yeah, there's a lot of sacrifice and stuff. Like I was starting to cry because I was watching like half of Team Gurren die, and I was like, no, stop, don't die. Because I already knew some of the characters that were going to die via edits, but I didn't know about some of the other ones, which I was kind of glad, but also it was also a little sad that they were dying. But eventually they come out on top, but Simone realizes that Nia can't exist without the Anti-Spirals existing. So they get married, and then she dissolves into nothing, kind of. She like ceases to exist, and it's very sad. But Simon then hands over his drill to the next generation, which is the twins that they saved from the one village. And now they pilot Gurren Lagann while he kind of roams Earth, helping like kind of just like making sure everything's good. While like everyone else on Team Gurren is like in space dealing with the other spiral races, and it's just like, and it ends, and it's like the end, but I'm like, I want to know more about the other spiral races. I want to know more, but I know that it's such a good ending though, and it shows like everyone doing what they want to do, and that they're they've done their last battle. So yeah, it's pretty darn awesome. And that's why you should go watch Gurren Lagann again, or if you haven't watched it, even if you watch this video and you know things that are gonna happen, go watch it. It's still beautiful, even if you know things that are gonna happen. It's beautiful. And that's all from me. Stay safe. Don't die. Rizival out.